Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for watching our marathon. It's been a lot of work by a lot of great people to put this all together, and yeah, it's had its share of issues, but so far it's going pretty well. Anyways, this is Blaster Master. It's a pretty well-known NES game. A little bit different of a title screen than you might be used to, as we're running the Japanese version. There's a few different reasons for that. We'll go into that as the run's going on. But time's going to start as soon as you see my tank after this rest screen. So 3, 2, 1, go. So not a whole lot going on at first here, just kind of moving through this first screen. Oh, 2 hover drops. That might be enough to hit the sprite limit and cause the first turret in this room to despawn. It didn't. Wasn't close enough to the screen edge. There's a couple spots in this game where you can leave hover drops on screen in one room and use that to despawn enemies in an upcoming room. Doesn't really do much, but save you a bunch of lag frames in some rooms. But it's still worth trying to go for, really. Coming up on the first dungeon here. Going to be trying to move here in a very specific way to do it optimally while also having enough health to be able to survive a hit from the boss in case he gives us a pattern where we need to take a hit to kill him. I'm switching my sub-weapons here on the pause screen in between rooms. Can't really see it because it's happening pretty quick, but I queued up the 3-way missiles for after this dungeon. Oh, really good boss fight, actually. It's about the best pattern he can give you. So killing that boss gives us the Hyper Beam, which gives us access to Area 2. The way to Area 2 is blocked by this big green wall monster, and no matter what you do, you cannot damage him unless you have the Hyper Beam. Your sub-weapons will damage him, but only if you already have the Hyper Beam. Otherwise, they do absolutely nothing. Here's the green wall monster. Not a big deal. A couple shots and some missiles and is quickly dispatched. Into Area 2 we go. So one of the biggest things about this game is lag reduction. Anytime there's more than 1 or 2 enemies on the screen, there's going to be just an overwhelming amount of lag. And a big part of this game's speedrun is trying to reduce that lag as much as possible. But sometimes you can cause more lag by killing an enemy than it would cause to just leave that enemy alive. So a lot of times it's a give and take of knowing which enemies to kill and not kill to get optimal lag results. The Japanese version has a few notable differences. The biggest one being that you have infinite continues in the Japanese version of the game. So that gives you some more options for death warps, because whenever you game over and continue, you get warped back to the beginning of the area that you game over in. So we use that to save some backtracking time throughout the run. All right. This area's got some kind of tricky movement to do optimally. This wasn't optimal. This was pretty mediocre, but we will take it. But in addition to the infinite continues that the Japanese version presents us with, it also has a couple of other little quirks, some pertinent to the speedrun, some not. One of the pertinent things to the speedrun is when you reset the game, it preserves your character state. So whatever bosses you've killed and whatever power-ups you've picked up, the game will actually like preserve that through a reset. So after a few bosses, you can reset after you get the item and warp back to the start screen of the game, which saves a lot of backtracking at 2 points in the run. Okay, here's the boss, Crabulus. Pretty simple fight. We're just gonna try to get a grenade to hit him and then pause the game. Like so. While the game's paused, that grenade is constantly taking damage, so when we unpause, the boss will just kind of go explode. All right, and with that, did not want to go back in that door. With that, we're done with area 2. That gives us the Crusher Beam, which allows us to destroy destructible blocks with our tank cannon. That will, come on, game. Don't eat my jump inputs, please. But yeah, that Crusher Beam will give us the access we need to get to area 3, as it lets us destroy some destructible blocks in the way. I'm trying to think if there's any other little differences with the Japanese version that would be noteworthy. The storyline is completely different between the Japanese and American versions, but that really doesn't affect the speedrun too much. It did end up affecting the remake of this game, Blaster Master Zero, as for the story for that, they kind of used a hybrid of the American and US stories from the original. I guess one other difference is there's a glitch later in the run that I'll be doing that in the US version, it's done slightly different and it's a frame perfect thing that you get like one go at pretty much. Japanese version, you have an 8-frame window and you can just endlessly pause buffer it. It's pretty free compared to it being really hard in the US version. Another glitch exists in the Japanese version where if you're taking damage, you can damage boost over like what should be an insta-death pit, but you can pause and unpause and then continue taking damage and use that to damage boost across said things. It doesn't really work in the US version. But this is a really laggy area of the game. Can't speak. These sine wave flyers that you're seeing, they just randomly spawn whenever they want. And yeah, they really lag the game up. Fortunately, they were relatively nice there, though. What a weak jump that was. Fine, though. Only lost a couple seconds. That upward missile shot there is actually a glitch in the game as well. You're only intended to be able to use your sub-weapons horizontally. However, if you aim upwards and then immediately release and shoot a sub-weapon, it'll go vertically. Not really quite sure exactly why that happens, but it is most definitely a thing that happens. This dungeon here is pretty important that I don't do anything wrong, and I just did. Terrific. Yeah, pretty much. Another unwanted hit. That's really not good. Pretty much, you end up with really low health at the boss going through this room, and you're doing it, and you're going through in a way that has optimal movement, but also takes a lot of damage. This is sketchy. We might die on this boss fight. If we do, it's not a big deal. The game will put us right back here. It's just an annoying time loss. Oh. Come on, game. So close. That's fine. That is fine. All right, photophage take 2. These boxes will always spawn in the exact same location. However, the direction they're going to move and what kind of shot they let out is completely random. It's possible to beat them without getting hit, but sometimes they just throw you some pretty nasty patterns. All right, quick reset there. That's going to put us back at the start screen of the game and also going to let us preserve all of the stuff we got from the first 3 stages. From that boss, we got the hover upgrade, and that's going to let us hover up this big wall to our left here, but first we have to go get hover energy. Unfortunately, that is the single biggest piece of RNG in the game. Here's our farming spot. Quick drop. Now we just got to sit here, wait for randomly spawning enemies that have a small chance of dropping hover when I kill them. That's not in a good location to grab unless I can get a second one real quick. Please, game. Okay, now the game's just being a jerk. For what it's worth, there we go. All right, now we're going to just jump into the explodey pit, respawn, and it'll put us right back at the wall. Serves 2 purposes, saves us having to backtrack to this wall, and also we need to take a full game over worth of deaths by the end of Area 5. That burns off one of our lives very, very quickly and efficiently. All right, here we are in Area 4. Don't get used to it because you're not going to be seeing it for very long. This is one stage that gets almost outright entirely skipped in this run. We're just going to go straight through to the entrance to Area 5. Normally you would get a key that opens a gate here from the boss of Area 4, but we're going to do a little bit of a trick here to just skip right past that gate. If you turn around on the same frame that you enter a door, the game does that. We're going to use that trick 3 more times here. What this is doing is every time we do this, it's offsetting our internal position by 1 tile in the game. So that's why everything's not matching up right, and we're able to go right past this block, pause and unpause, that resets the collision, and we can move right past that block that we needed the tank to get past. Needed in quotation marks, of course. So the rest of this area is just swimming and trying to kill as many of these little diver enemies as we can to not have a bunch of lag going on. All right, getting hit by that big enemy there is really bad. Those things do a lot of damage to you when you're not in your tank. Right we are getting close to the boss dungeon. And I'm taking all the hits here. That's not good. No, don't snipe me, please. I mean, if we die, it's not the end of the world. We need to take a death in another room anyways. I would just prefer to not do that until that room. All right, sidestep this guy, sidestep this guy. Hopefully the laser cannon's here. It is. There's a quick death. All right, so now we're just moving through this room here. Taking way too much damage while doing so. Normally I'd kill, or I'd leave that thing alive to take damage from, but we're going to play it safe. I'm going to attempt to trigger this glitch on this boss. There we go, nice. So I tricked the game into spawning the boss in the previous room. And that doesn't seem like too big of a deal, other than the fact that the nest doesn't really have support for large sprite objects. So it draws a lot of its big boss enemies for a lot of games as animated background layers. Us going into the previous room kind of fuses the boss into the background and just leaves this hitbox just sitting wide in the open for us to just go ham on. Taking a quick death to take a death warp back to the start of Area 5. Our newly acquired dive gear from the Area 5 boss lets us zip through the water and into the next area, Area 6. This is your token ice level. Every NES game has to have an ice level. This is that game's ice level. Ice physics are pretty bad. They're even worse than the US version. For some reason, the Japanese version has a little bit more forgiving ice physics. But much like other areas of the game, we're just moving through, trying to prevent as much lag as possible. For some reason, my cat is scraping at my door. Don't know why. Hey, quit. All right, got to be very careful not to fall down in these areas because you lose a lot of time. You fall into a pit that you have to go all the way back like 3 rooms into the level and do that whole vertical climb again. I'm going to play it safe and not take the leap of faith here. You can jump under that and it's technically faster. It's just if you fall again, you lose 40 seconds or so. I'm quite a bit rusty at this game, so I'm just going to play it super safe. All right, that gave us homing missiles, which we are going to switch to right now, actually. Homing missiles will let us kill an enemy that we otherwise wouldn't be able to hit right here. They're also useful coming up in just a couple moments at the end of this room as well. All right, into the dungeon we go. This dungeon is just a lot of ice and spikes, and if you hit the spikes while you're on the ice, you a lot of times get pinballed back and forth, and you just can't recover from it, and you end up dying. We do have a few extra lives, but we've already wasted enough time to dump stuff in this run. Don't want to do any more of that, so we're going to try to avoid it. Here's a bad spot for pinballing. Oh, I just flat out didn't have enough health. That's my fault for not paying attention. Marathon runs are hard. Okay, no pinballing. We are in there. So this boss is the laggiest boss in the game, and it causes so much lag that it can cause it to skip setting its death flag when it should die and go into a zombie state. Okay, no zombie. It happens far less frequently in the Japanese version because the Japanese version in general just handles lag a lot better. Oh, I got a reset warp. Okay, back to the starting screen we go. After you get the item from Area 6, the next step is to backtrack to Area 1, go back to Area 2, and continue on. Instead, we're going to do a reset warp and just skip a lot of that backtrack to Area 1. The item we got from the Area 6 boss is the wall upgrade. It allows us to drive up walls. And the thing stopping us from getting from Area 2 to Area 7 is, you guessed it, a big wall. Unfortunately, the wall monster is dead. We will not see our buddy wall monster ever again. At least not until we actually power cycle the console. So Area 7, in terms of the speedrun for this game, is probably the area that has seen the most insane skips over the years. Originally, we did the stage just pretty straight up. We didn't really know any ways to speed it up other than damage boosting across insta-death pits in the final dungeon. Then a task had a skip where you skipped half of Area 7 by glitching through some walls and some unloaded zones and doing a bunch of weird trickery. And then there was a frame perfect door entry that if you did not hit the 1 frame window to enter the door, you soft locked. If anybody wants to see that skip, just look up the Blaster Master race from AGDQ 2016. I actually pulled it off during my GDQ race there. But after that, another skip was discovered, which skipped from the first room of the dungeon all the way to where that original skip took place. So we skipped even more of the dungeon. Didn't have to do any of the side view stuff. We figured it couldn't get any faster than that, and then Dugong found this little beauty. Instead of doing all those crazy frame perfect glitchy skips and potentially soft locking the game, now we just do this, hopefully. First try, nice. So pausing over the water there extended my damage frames when I came out of the pause, letting me just kind of skip straight ahead to the boss door. That's about 30 seconds or so faster than the original skips, which were 2+ minutes faster than doing the stage normally. But now that we got that upgrade, which is the Wall 2 upgrade, we're going to go walk into the lava. Nice, refreshing lava bath. Cleanses the soul. Everybody should do this occasionally. It's good for you. That is going to put us back at the entrance to Area 7, which is a coincidence because we can't really get back. I mean, you can. It's just really weird getting back after you do all those skips, and it's faster to just do the death warp. So what that upgrade is going to do, it's going to allow us to not only drive up walls, but also across ceilings and down walls. Sounds neat in practice, but the way the controls are implemented for it is pretty atrocious. If you are approaching the edge of a platform and you are holding the D-pad in any way, shape, or form, the game will prioritize rolling off of the platform and activating the wall upgrade over jumping. So the game will just eat every one of your jumps. So you have to learn this weird method of like letting off the D-pad before you jump and using the D-pad in weird ways in the air to prevent wall 2 from overriding your jumps. It's quite annoying. All right, we're gonna hope that this turret drops a hover drop for us. It's a random chance it did not. That's unfortunate. We don't need the hover drop to proceed, but it makes the room coming up in the final area a lot easier and a lot less scary for that matter. Right up this wall, and now onward to the final area. Nope. I was kind of hoping that, oh, nice, okay. That did work. I wasted a little bit of time killing those pink things, but I really wanted to get that hover drop. I don't feel like dealing with the spike room without hover. It's just, it's not fun. This area has all these spikes that you'll see. These spikes do huge damage. Making this area, when you combine it with how hard it is to control your tank with wall 2, makes this area just way more difficult than it has any right being. We might take another death here. Not a big deal if we do, just a time loss. All right, we're through the purple hallway. But part of the reason this area is so hard is it got changed late into the game's development. There's 2 bosses to Area 8, and originally in the game there was an upgrade called the Spike Upgrade, which would have let you drive through those spikes with no damage. Originally, you're going to fight the boss, or the first boss of Area 8 in one of the early dungeons in the area. And he would have gave you the spike upgrade, which let you proceed through to the final dungeon and the boss. However, they decided to just combine both bosses into one dungeon and get rid of the spike upgrade. But when they did that, they never redid any of Area 8. So you still have all these spikes that you're expected to navigate past, but without the upgrade that would have let you safely do so. Hey, we got spike jump. That's a really hard strat that saves almost no time. We're talking literally a couple of frames here, guys. Hooray! Useless skips that look cool. It's not even a skip, it's just an optimization. All right, on to the boss that's on the cover of the game, the plutonium boss. We're going to just line up on his chin. The pause glitch will not work on this boss. So we do a modified version of it where we keep pausing and unpausing while spamming grenades. This kind of makes him take a little extra damage and slows down his boulders, making it easier to not get killed by them. This boss, we're just going to sit him in the corner, make him think about his life choices, how he got here. We just have to mash away. As long as we never let him break his iframes, we never will get hit. But that requires a pretty consistent, steady mash. Nothing too crazy, only like 8 inputs a second, but still. You have to hold it for about 30 seconds or you start taking damage. We're almost there. Okay, and time right about now. That is Blaster Master. This run convinces you not to. It's not that bad. Play the Japanese version. Like, if you're gonna play it, figure out a way to play the Japanese version, emulated, whatever. It's a lot more accessible because of the infinite continues. You don't feel like you're beating your head against a brick wall, getting 5, 6, 7 areas into the game, only to take your final game over and have to restart all over again. Barring that, there is a really, really good modern remake of this game for the Switch called Blaster Master Zero. I guess it's also for it's for all consoles now. It's for Steam, PC, or Steam and PC are the same thing. Duh. For Steam, PS4, Xbox One, Switch. But yeah, Blaster Master Zero, it's relatively inexpensive. It is a great remake of this game. I cannot emphasize how amazing of a game. And it's got a lot of modern things like save points and infinite lives that just make it more accessible to people that have had trouble with the original game or find it too too difficult, I guess you would say. Anyways, that is going to be my time for right now. I will be back later to do some TMNT for you guys a few runs down the road. But up next, actually, I am not sure what our next run is. So I will leave that to our awesome host and hostess to relay to you guys. Apparently my cat is saying bye to you guys as well. He just hears me talking and wants to be included. That's all. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and I am going to turn it back over to them now. See you next time.